afternoon. My name is Dr. Renee Collins, and I would like to welcome you to the ninth annual Valley Conservatory Early Music Festival. Yes, I did say the ninth annual Valley Conservatory Early Music Festival. The Early Music Festival was started in 2013 as a way of providing cultural enrichment to this style of music to the Huntsville community. This was done by providing lectures, master classes, and concerts. As you may recall, those of you who had the opportunity to tune in last week, I had mentioned that it was our 8th season. Well, I can't count. I was a little mistaken there. It's actually our 9th season, and we are so happy to be able to continuously being able to provide this festival to the Huntsville community. Again, as we mentioned last week, this is the only early music festival in the southeast region of the country, and we are very happy to be able to come and perform for you this afternoon. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Ralph Goebel, who's going to be talking a little bit about early music and the period of the time this music was composed, and also giving us a little bit of information about the composers and the instruments. So again, I would like to thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy the concert.
Good afternoon. I'm Ralph Goebel, and I'd like to welcome you to the second installment of the Valley Conservatory's Early Music Festival. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Collins for organizing and supporting this double event. I thought I'll talk a little bit informally about what early music means and what it means to me. Many of us are by now very familiar with the classical romantic tradition, basically the tradition from Mozart on to Beethoven, then the romantic composers Schumann, Schubert, Brahms, the late romantic composers like Wagner and Liszt, and even the early 20th century composers Schoenberg and other members of the Second Viennese School. But early music is distinctly different. And there are various opinions about what early music encompasses, but it basically covers the enormous period from the Middle Ages to the Baroque period and even the early classical period, shortly before Mozart achieved his highest achievements. What then is early music? For one thing, it deals with the composers of the Middle Ages, the Baroque, the Renaissance, and we will hear some composers again, and some of them are very well known, of course. J.S. Bach, the absolute pinnacle of Baroque music. Telemann, we will hear today. William Byrd, the eminent composer of madrigals and virginal music in England. And other composers that we will also feature are lesser known, and some of them are totally unknown. And it seems as if scholars and musicians are rediscovering a wealth of other composers, again from the Middle Ages onto the Renaissance, the Baroque, that have not been listened to very much, that had been forgotten for some time, then are being rediscovered. And so early music tries to expand our notion of what Western classical music is. Another feature is because it deals with old music, old meaning again before the classical romantic period. Musicians have cultivated various historically informed performance styles. And at one point, people claimed that based on traditional contemporary manuscripts and documents, musicians thought they could have, they could reconstruct a kind of authentic performance practice, the way presumably that music really sounded in 1650 or 1339. And that turned out to be an illusion, because even if we can replicate the instruments quite faithfully of that time, even if we can sort of reconstruct old concert halls, or we have concert halls from the earlier period that have survived, we are modern listeners, and so we cannot listen to that music the way people in the 16th or 17th century listened to that music. Nor can we as musicians faithfully, authentically replicate that performance style. And so what musicians nowadays try to do is we are trying to cultivate historically informed performance styles. Styles that try to somehow get closer to what we think the performance styles of that past period was. And so we try to get as close as possible to that period in terms of tempi, in terms of articulation, the way I strike a bow, or the way I hit keys on a keyboard, phrasing, the way I shape a line, a musical line on my recorder or on the bassoon. And what you will hear will sound very different from what we are used to when we listen to a symphony orchestra playing Beethoven or Brahms. For one thing, the instruments that you will hear are replicas, quite faithful replicas of old instruments. And so you will hear the viol, the harpsichord, the recorder, the Baroque bassoon, and other instruments. And those instruments were built in our time, but according to old specifications. And so this is one way of getting us closer to the Renaissance, to the Baroque period, without actually transporting us back into that time, which is impossible. And musicologists, scholars of music, have come to edit manuscripts in critical editions, consulting original manuscripts if they survived, comparing manuscripts in order to reconstruct as best as they can what the intention of the composer may have been. And so what we will hear is, again, not a time capsule that projects us back into the old periods, but a modern attempt, our attempt, to revive, to reconstruct, to empathize with the music of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Baroque. And I hope you enjoy our performances. We will now be playing the Sonata Concertante, the Nona Sonata, the Ninth Sonata by the mid-17th century Italian master Dario Castello, who was from Venice, and like his contemporaries, he explored the sort of virtuosity of various instruments. So you will hear some fast passage work, some recitativos, a beautiful bassoon solo, and you will hear one of the early music ensembles sponsored by the Valley Conservatory, and the instrumentation is 2 Baroque violins with special Baroque bows and gut strings, a Baroque bassoon that, as I said, has a beautiful solo halfway through, and the basso continuo, the accompaniment, is played on the viola da gamba, another historic string instrument related to the lute, and the harpsichord. So I hope you'll enjoy Dario Castello's Sonata Concertate, the Nona Sonata, the Ninth Sonata.